What we do in the book at one point, I think one of the more interesting parts of the book, is trace the different stages of American democracy. The first turn of American democracy was obviously the Constitution, but the Constitution came about as a result of years of Constitution writing and building and experience in the independent states before the Constitution was signed in 1789, between 1776 and 1789. It's when John Adams and the others came up with their constitutional principles. So those were devised in the crucible of the states. And what they came up with is of course, they didn't like democracy at all. Because of some experience in the states of direct democracy in Pennsylvania and some fiscal issues. And reading the Greek and Roman antiquity, all the founding fathers opposed democracy. Democracy is a way of governance. Democracy is not in the Bill of Rights, the Constitution, or any of the founding documents, because the founding fathers didn't like it. They preferred a republic in which you had delegated authority that checked popular sovereignty. So that came out of the states. Then between the Constitution, 100 years later, the next set of innovations came in the states again in the progressive movement. The progressive movement emerged in the turn of the 20th century, in the late 1800s and the turn of the 20th century, out of the same kind of environment we have today. Technological upheaval, the growth of cities, industrial revolution, new rights have to follow new technologies. There were concerns about labor rights, about working hours, about the abuse of the big trusts on farmers and the railroad companies and the banks. So what emerged out of the progressive movement was this idea of direct democracy. If the legislature and the representative democracy was captured by all these special interests, the way to deal with it in the progressive movement was to introduce direct democracy, which we borrowed from Switzerland, which is let the people make the laws. If your representatives are not doing the job, and they're doing it badly in any case, why not give the power to the people? And there was also a case made in those days for a greater information environment, because mass newspapers were born for the first time. So direct democracy was introduced in that period in many states. Today there are 27 states, including, well, not including, but District of Columbia is not a state, but have various forms of direct democracy that came out of the progressive movement. But what also came out of the progressive movement was the idea of smart government. Instead of cronies running cities, they got the idea, let's have city managers. Let's have people who know what they're doing to manage the cities. In Wisconsin, they called the Wisconsin idea, La Follette was the governor there, a big progressive leader, called on the university to write the labor laws, the antitrust laws, and so on. So it was a marriage of direct democracy and smart government. Because the idea was professionals and experts can bring less partisanship and more information to the process. So those were the first two turns of American democracy. And what we argue in the book is we're in the third turn of American democracy for all the reasons we've just discussed. The advent of peer-driven social media, another technological period of upheaval, and this period we should combine the experiences of both of the previous ones, which is the deliberative emphasis of the founding fathers, that you just don't give popular sovereignty free rein, give people a voice through direct democracy, but also smart government and also new deliberative institutions, as we've been discussing, that go along with a direct democracy. So this is happening in the states as well, and the innovation will come from the states. In California, we're doing a lot of this. If you want, we can go into some detail on that, but it won't emerge out of Washington. It won't emerge out of the partisan gridlock in Washington.